decisions get made. But when you're being your best self and you're looking at a situation, you're like, well, it's sensible to have fear in this situation, but become channeled with it, then you're running off a better energy.
Yeah. Because it doesn't go anywhere.
No.
So it doesn't go anywhere, like the fear. Like, even on top of my head, like reframing it as growth, etc., like step out your comfort zone, like all this stuff's great, but fundamentally you're still going to be feeling a certain way going into it. And that's completely normal. And as you said, like if you're going to a situation, let's say a job interview, you want to be a little bit
good
anxious.
example.
Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you both mentally and physically become the best version of you. Today, I'm joined once again by Mr. Mikey and Markham. How are we?
Yes, mate. 2 in a row.
2 in a row. I don't think it'll come out 2 in a row. So I think when this comes out, there'll have been one in the middle. We'll have Victoria, I think, in the middle.
But 2 in a row for me.
2 in a row for you, yeah, which is, again,
mate,
gone good form.
We're rolling.
I know. It's like that by popular demand.
Oh, mate, that sounds nice.
The audience asked for it. They demanded. Mikey, they were like picketing outside the office while we want Mikey back.
Well, thank you for having me back, mate. I must have had a good show last week, so I appreciate it.
But doing well, I said, and we talked about on Circle Man as well. The last 3 episodes we've had on that, like that's been really good. One of the biggest things we spoke about that is, like, I gave you credit for it, and obviously Aaron didn't take you kindly.
Mate, that went weird, didn't it?
Yeah, I was like, factually, it's true. But it's good though, from the fact of, like, it must be good for you though to know that everyone that's in there right now at that moment in time is because you kind of got everyone together, which I think was a pretty cool thing.
We've got a lovely recipe together, haven't we? Everyone that suits there together now, sort of. Everyone's warranted their role, and it works with the ages, I think, as well. Sort of, we're very different people, and it just makes it really knit together nicely.
I agree. So again, with that, if anyone's interested in checking it out, it's BBC Radio Nottingham. It's every single Thursday evening. It's at 8 p.m. It's on. Now again, obviously, if you don't live in Nottingham or Nottinghamshire, you can obviously go online and watch it and listen to it live, and you've also got it on replay as well. So again, it's just a group of guys talking about men's mental health, not just necessarily men's mental health, just mental health in general. So even if you're not a male, you'll get a lot of nuggets out of it, and again, we're all very, very different, so go and check it out. The interesting thing is every single one of the guests there everyone on there has been a guest in the podcast, apart from Duncan. Apart from that, so sorry Duncan.
One day.
So what we're talking about today then?
Fear today, and not letting it govern your life, in essence. I suppose more of things that have hurt you in the past and not having a feared response to them. I thought, because Katie, our lovely assistant, helped us with this topic of choice, and there was 2, but this one was more relevant to me at the moment in life because I've moved into this new house, really excited about it, and the big thing of what I was choosing for this house was so I could have my cat there. So I was looking at loads of properties, but I wanted my cat to be able to come. It's been there 3 weeks now, and sadly, like, he really wants to go out. He's a farm cat. And I've took him back now, so he's back to the farm. So there's quite a lot of hurt there in my heart at the minute. And I've lost a dog before, and I didn't want an animal again because I went through this pain before where it was just too much for me. I was so young, and I wasn't taught how to process this emotion and deal with it. So I'd never wanted an animal again after that dog. It was this 3-legged dog, and I loved him to bits, called Jake. I remember my mum sent me to school this one day, and luckily, it was the thing that stopped all my bullying that day, because I went to school, I was so emotional, and the bully that used to bully me all the time spat on my head or something horrible, and I just turned around and I was like, my dog died today, and I let all that emotion out onto him, and that was the bullying stopped them. But again, the pain was just too much. And then eventually, Chrissy got come into my life, become a partner, and I was like, it'd be cool if we had a little pet together. And she's like, yeah, we started looking online. And I was like, I have a cat in the cattery. My dad, there was this couple went away and they never came back.
Oh, really?
From one of their trips. They just left their cat Tommy there. So I was like, I always go see him. I let him out, but should we have him in the house? So I went and got Tommy, and mate, the first night he just slept on my neck. And he was like this beautiful scarf. And like from that night, we were best mates. And ever since then, get home, just they experience your whole life together, all the days, the best days, the worst days, they're there and they're consistent and just loving. That's all they showcase. So I love animals. So getting him back from when we were getting kicked off the farm was my most fundamental, right, Chrissy, wherever we land, we've got to be able to take Tommy. But I just feel too cruel having him inside. So essentially, I had to say that goodbye again to him. Still, I can go around to the farm again now, which is nice. So I do get to go there. But I'm like, oh, it's just a dull pain inside here at the minute. And now we're talking about having a dog maybe to replace, but it just feels like cheating. Do you know what I mean? So there's a fear there for this pain that I'm going through with Tommy and falling in love again, in essence, with this other animal that I'm going to introduce into our life, or maybe.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people go through that. I think with people, with everything, they don't want that pain. But I believe the price of love is joy and pain. Like, that is the price of having something so great in your life. You've got to go through it. So
what did the Queen say before she died? Well, it was on September 11th. Grief is the price you pay for love. So like, and it's only better to have loved than to have lost than to never loved at all. So actually, again, people, because I've been there, when especially when it comes to animals, but again, mainly in like relationships or something as well. And again, we get to a whole conversation about whether it's actually love, because actually where I'm at now definitely was not in any situation I thought it was. But the point is that pain, that hurt that you actually genuinely feel. I'm thinking actually more when I was younger. Do you know, when you're really young, maybe like in secondary school and around that sort of age, when you have your quote unquote your first love and that sort of pain. Like, but I think for me, it's once you understand that, it's understanding that I'd rather experience the highs to have this low than to never experience the highs. I think that's the thing for me. It's like whenever anything like that's happened and you get these highs, I'd rather still have the highs. If you gave me a choice, that's the thing when it comes to emotions. Like, you can't just turn on one tap. Like to turn on the hot tap, like the happy emotions, you have to have the cold tap. Like, you can't just have the good times. Like, there's the law of polarity that there's opposites. Like, to have the good, you must accept that there will be bad times at some point. And even, let's say, for example, like you are married, at some point, one of you will die. Yeah. So one of you at some point, it's inevitable, you're going to have to suffer that. Whether you break up, fall out of love, whatever it is, inevitably there will be loss at some point there. So it's like, it's inevitable. You can't go through life. I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to stuff like that, when it comes to love and stuff, they get so fearful of being hurt. But what they never do is they never actually look at why they got hurt in the first place, especially when it comes to relationships. So what they end up doing is just going from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, and all is just a mirror of the same trauma or the same person that caused them that pain in the first place, not understanding that they're just not compatible. Because I look at all the girls I used to go for, like, they were not compatible for me. And what I was trying to do was smash a square peg into a round hole. I was like, oh, I will make this work this time. But every single time, it just leads to me getting hurt over and over and over again. And the only way that I stopped that pain was actually take a step back and be like, I am the problem here. And obviously, I know it's slightly different when it comes to a cat. But for me, it's just looking at it and being like, well, actually, when it comes to a dog or something like that, like, just think of all the amazing times that you're going to get, rather than preempting the fact of, well, the dog's going to die one day. Well, yeah, but look at all the other good things in between.
And I suppose to some extent, fear was driving you to smash that square peg into a round hole because you didn't want to go through that process of breakup as well. So it's like, well, it feels okay or tepid, so I'll just go through it because I don't want to hurt that person. And that's a fear-based response as well, isn't it? I've been there many times.
You don't want to hurt them. It's like, and again, it just highlights to you that I'm not good enough. Like, if this fails, what other people can think? Again, putting it all from what other people are going to think. And it's just like, oh, at the end of the day, I don't care. Especially one relationship in general, which I'm not going to go into detail on the podcast, the really traumatic one that was a catalyst for a lot of things. Excuse me, it was a real short relationship anyway. However, like, I look at that time and it was so turbulent, and I'm just like, I look back now and I'm like, what the hell was going on? Like, Katie had to ask me for something the other day when it comes to my tax or something. I had to find a date of where I used to live, and I then had to go back and look at my because obviously I've got an Android now, my old Apple photos. And then it took me back to that time, and there was all these photos, and I was just like, oh my god, like, I just like, well, I can't even like, look at that.
Memory lane.
Yeah, but I just look at how chaotic that was at the time. But it wasn't to me in that moment. As you said, it was completely natural and normal. But I look back now, from the place where I'm at, I'm like, what the hell was I actually doing there? And it's not a sense of maturing, because that's got nothing to do with it. It's a general, almost like a personality identity transplant, and like the fact I'm actually able now to think. I can't really describe it. I was going through that phase, just not thinking. I say phase, I'm talking about like 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
Just literally the whole thing was just shambolic and chaotic, and there was no control at all.
I suppose, through your experience then, because we know how much that pain really hurts and how deadening it can be, do you have any advice for going through that, the pain side of it? Because if fear's preventing you from doing a thing, because we know we've got to feel that pain, and that's inevitable, do you have any thoughts or ideas of what you can do to help through that time.
So this is interesting. So again, for new listeners of the podcast, when we do this format with me and Mikey, it's the only one that I don't prepare for. So we literally just, as Katie gave us the ideas for this, but it's a case of we sit down, what we're going to talk about, and then we sort of go. But I just quickly took some notes on fear before we started. But normally when I do the other episodes, when we've got a guest or it's just me doing the Thursday thoughts, I do a bit of preparation. So with this, I've just got a few notes I wrote down for this, which is quite interesting, which might help people with this, because fear is a big thing for people. The first one is I've learned to try and reframe fear as growth.
I like that
and
a lot.
The reason why I did that is because fear is the gateway to growth. Because normally we're fearful of things that we're ignorant to. So, for example, spiders, snakes. We don't understand snakes. We don't understand spiders. Like, there's a difference between fear and not liking them. Most people are afraid of them because they don't really understand them. If they fully understood spiders and understood snakes and understood they were in no danger, they wouldn't be fearful of them. And especially when it comes to like breakups and stuff like that, we're very, very irrational and illogical. Yeah. And sometimes it's because we don't understand, we're very ignorant to the situation. So I now see fear. If you're fearful of a situation, genuinely afraid of a situation, just ask yourself, by me actually leaning into this, what am I going to gain from it?
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice, man.
So you just frame it like this opportunity for growth. This gateway is a gate you've got to go through. It's a tough gate, but actually on the other side of that, you will have grown as a person. So I try and reframe that. And when I'm starting to feel nervous or afraid, because I mentioned it before, when it comes to public speaking or anything like that, like whenever I'm put into a situation where I am feeling a bit anxious, nervous, afraid, I'm always thinking, right, well, first of all, don't make it about me. So if you can, make it about other people. So when I'm public speaking, I'll always be like, when I'm starting to feel anxious or nervous or afraid, it's normally afraid of like, what if I mess up or that everyone gets that voice. I'll say, right, it's not about me. It's about me adding value to the audience. So straight away when it comes to that fear, if you can put it outside of yourself and look at, well, actually, by me doing this, who's it helping?
That can even come into sort of my situation. What's your Dumbledore quote?
Do what's right, not what's easy.
Yeah. You know, with the cat at the minute, I know that it's going to have a much better life being at the farm, being able to explore, do what it wants to do. So instead of turning away and just pretending he's not looking out the window or trying to get out, and I'm like, right, what's right in this situation? And I'm looking at the situation then, not being scared of it, but I'm leaning into it. Then I'm deciding with my rational state, okay, what do I need to do in this situation? What's right here? So I love the leaning into it.
But not even that, also then look at that. So you're afraid of the pain that you're feeling now and then getting a dog and all these things. But again, what's it teaching you?
Yeah.
You're not the same person now as you were when the dog died. So what you're saying is that right now, we can maybe get another dog or letting go of Timmy. Like, it's like, right, in this situation, right, is it Timmy or Tommy?
It's Tommy, mate.
Tommy. In my head, it's like, I said Timmy. I said Timmy, and I was just like,
everyone was like, oh,
I said Timmy. I was like, is it Timmy? I was like, no, it's Tommy. So we're in Tommy. Tommy, I'm terrible. So with Tommy, it's then looking at it and being like, right, I'm not the same person here. So straight away, what you're doing is you're associating this situation with the dog. Yeah. But it's not. It's an opportunity for you to actually now step into that and be like, well, actually, look at the emotional intelligence you've got now. Yeah. Look at all the stuff, look at all the coping strategies you've got. It's not the same. And the fact of you now understand these things about love and loss and all that sort of stuff, and again, you're doing the right thing, it puts you in a lot better place to deal with it and handle that. 100%. So although the pain's still there, but the pain's actually a love rather than a fear of like your whole world crumbling and do you know what I mean, you're letting it, do you know what I mean, all these things.
The irrational starts creeping into it.
Exactly, in your thoughts. You get lost in your thoughts. You know that's not going to happen. If you do, you've got strategies to help you with that. Yeah. And again, same with the dog. You're not just going to jump into getting a dog because, well, that is illogical. That's my brain. Like, well, I need to fill this void. You can just sit there and be curious with it. Well, why do I want a dog? Is that logical? Whatever it is, you can start to ask the questions, and that's the other side of the gate for you.
Mate, I love that. Other question, in society or in people you work with, clients and friends, where else do you see fear creeping into people's lives? And where do you notice that people are being irrational or using a fear-based response?
But anything to do with change really is the biggest one. When it comes to change, like changing the jobs or just something really logical. Like, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. Let's say you've got to go to a different petrol station. For example, like something as small as that can cause completely irrational fear. Oh, I normally go to this petrol station. I don't know how to use I know what to do. Yeah. And then straight away you go to a new one, and it's like, and the reason I'm thinking about that is when I was in Canada, I was thinking, well, how on earth? I was like, it's a petrol station. So I was getting really logical about this, and I was just like, well, what am I actually going to do to fill this car up? Yeah. Well, what I do is the same thing I do at every petrol station. And I just kind of play it by ear.
So did you have to have a bit of a conversation with yourself in that moment then?
Yeah, well, I catch myself.
I think that's a great example.
I catch myself regularly, like doing stuff. It's like, because again, I'm completely normal. Like, it's like whenever you go into a situation that's unknown, the fear is of the unknown. You are afraid of the unknown. But it's
what am I going to look like or be perceived of?
But once you understand and you can just have that conversation with yourself, does it really matter?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, does this really matter? You go to a petrol station and you look like a tit.
Yeah.
Does it really matter?
No.
Is it going to go on social media? Is it going to go on the news? Is it, or your best friends going to be there? Is your arch enemy going to be there? No. Like the people that work at the petrol station, you're not going to be the first person that's got confused on how to do something. Do you know what I mean? It's all these things. It's like, for me, I try and catch myself, and I'm very, very good at doing this now. It doesn't mean I always get it right, but that's why I can hopefully talk on this stuff, because I used to be so illogical, and the patterns of my thought. There's something happened the other day. That was it. So again, in the gym, completely, this is not really to do with fear, but it's kind of where we're going with this.
Touches the fringes.
100%. So at my gym, so after I left the gym last year, so I found my new sanctuary. I'm really getting into my training at the minute. Absolutely loving it. Like,
you're a lot bigger than me, mate.
Oh, yes, I know. That's what Katie said. I'm sorry about that. So like I said, I'm in a great place right now. And the gym's, again, my sanctuary. I'm genuinely, for the first time in about 2 years, loving my training. And I'm there on the other side of the gym. I look over and I think I know that guy. Now, it's a guy that used to go to the old gym I used to work out of. And to say that he's a bit of a snake and a rat is an understatement. And he's one of those people that says stuff behind my back, and he's got back to me, and I've seen the messages. I'm just like, dude. And like, it's one of those ones. And I just then sat there and I got into my own head.
Right.
I sat there thinking, if he comes and talks to me, this is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Genuinely, and I got myself so worked up about it. And I sat there on the bike afterwards. So this is like going for about 10 minutes. I sat there on the bike, and I was literally working myself up, and my heart was absolutely pounding.
Yeah.
And I was like, and because I didn't realize I was doing it. I was sat there watching, because I was doing my cardio for 20 minutes. I'm sat there watching stuff on YouTube. And I was like, I feel really, like, unwell.
Well, mate, I love
And I was
this,
just like, what's going on here? And I felt my heart rate. My heart was pounding. I wasn't going any harder than I normally was.
Yeah.
But I realized I wasn't even watching the video. I was replaying in my head, if he comes and talks to me.
This is where it's going to go down.
And here's the bizarre thing. Before that gym session, I'd just done a workshop. I'd wrote a workshop on controlling your thoughts.
Wow, yeah. Okay.
So I then laughed. I was laughing at myself thinking, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
But again, I caught myself, again, completely logical, completely irrational. Because at the end of the day, I don't care. Genuinely. Yeah. I've not seen him in however long. My life is substantially better since I left. I'm looking fantastic. I'm feeling great. My life at the minute is awesome. Yeah. Do I actually care that he's in this gym? No. Would I actually care if he came to talk to me? Yes. But I'll shut the conversation down politely and crack on with my day. So what was I getting worked up about?
No.
What was I getting worked up about? Realistically, what was the worst that was going to happen in the situation?
It was just the sense of self and character was going away with
But we get that a lot, again, with ex-partners.
Yeah.
So imagine that was an ex-partner of mine.
Yeah.
Again, we get into this cold, but nothing's actually happened. What we've done is we've catastrophized this thing for no reason. And what's happening is my body, mate, I literally felt like I was going to be sick. But I was there doing my cardio, not at a crazy pace, my normal pace, and I was watching a video, but I wasn't watching the video. I was in my own head. I didn't even realise. And this is the difference. I was on there for about 6 minutes, I think it was. 6 minutes, I got on my own head for, and I managed to snap myself out of it. And I thought, wow, old me would have been so in my head, mate, probably for the rest of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably for the rest of the day.
This is where you caught yourself
Fuming,
and forgive yourself.
telling myself a story that hadn't even happened.
I get you.
And I'm just like, wow. It was a real eye-opening thing for me. Obviously, I came back and was laughing with Katie about it. But I was just like, it was then put to bed. It was only occurred to me right now when I'm thinking about this.
I love your authenticity and truth of being able to tell that, though, because it's just saying, I'm human. Honestly, it doesn't matter how trained you are at anything, we can always lapse into something. Even weight training, I'm sure you can end up doing a really bad technique now and then and like, what am I doing? I know how to do this, but it's just easier to do it this way for a minute. So it shows the power of having to train your brain and train yourself on a daily.
Just be aware of it.
Mental health is so important and integral to work on just as much as when you're doing your weight training or when you're doing your nutrition or whatever you're doing. The mental side of things, you've really got to be able to channel, connect with, and think about. The
mind controls everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Your thoughts literally control everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a whole workshop on this at some point. As in workshops in like a full-length podcast episode on this. But it's cause and effect. And the cause is your thoughts. Yeah. Everything that's in your life, either positive or negative, comes back to your thoughts. I'm going to leave that there. I'm not going to go down too much of a rabbit hole on this one.
Okay, yeah.
But a few things I want to link back with the fear. The notes I took here was, I think fear can be a bit kind of linking to what we said here about reframing it as growth. Normally we're fearful when we're stepping out of our comfort zone. Yeah. Like when you're doing something, like you're normally in this circle. You basically you go to the same petrol station, see the same people, go to the same places. We're creatures of habit. And so you step out of that comfort zone, You go for that job that you were kind of, I really want this, my dream job. And then as soon as you get to the interview, well, what if? You then, part of that is, this is a really good quote that I want to get in here, which is why I kind of link this with this. It's not who we think we are that holds us back. It's who we think we aren't. So a lot of the time we're fearful of things. It's because we don't think we're good enough. We can't do this. It's not that anything like positive. Like we genuinely, it's who we think we aren't.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't do this. What if this? What if that? Rather than coming from a place of, well, actually, if I just change my perception on this, well, what if this works out amazingly? What if I go and absolutely smash this job interview? What if this petrol station is actually cheaper and the member staff are a lot nicer? What if this new gym I'm going to, what if actually the people are really, really nice and the personal trainer there is the one person I'm supposed to meet that was actually meant to help me? What if going to this new bar, maybe I meet the partner of my dreams, who actually also doesn't, who also actually doesn't drink and just happens to be there, like me, supporting the friend, whatever it is. Why can't we just change that? And that's for me, just looking at it, being like, right, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable right now, and what's happening is because I don't think I'm good enough to handle this situation. Why don't we just flip that? Well, what if you are good enough? What would that look like? Like, what's the potential positive outlook that could come from this situation?
This is when I went travelling with my mate Jagger, I didn't realise how unconscious I was travelling. But there was a lot of times where I didn't want to go in certain situations. I give a load of reasons, magnitude of reasons of why not. And he just said a really simple thing to me once, but it's one of those that has stuck with me. I think he said before, you create your reality. That was a great one. But this one, when I kept saying, oh, I don't want to do that, mate, he said, yeah, but will the juice be worth the squeeze? And ever since he said that, it was like, oh, yeah, we could have a great, great time and it'll be so worth it. And I always just use that now. It's an affirmation for me when I'm going into a situation. Is the juice worth the squeeze? And that's what sent me up on a lot of the stages. I'm performing again now and talking at different keynotes or whatever. And I know I spoke to you about my neurosis there and so on. But it's alleviated a lot now because I'm like, of course, the juice is worth the squeeze for me. I'm actually helping people. I'm getting on that stage. I've got something worth saying. I've got a story to it. And I get paid. Like the juice is massively worth the squeeze for me now. So that's really to do with what you're saying there. One thing I did want to mention on this podcast, if we're speaking of fear, sometimes fear's good and rational, and we need to
100%.
Consider that too, because I think where it's irrational becomes panic. So if you repress it and don't work with fear and allow it and talk it through and process with it, that's where panic comes in and all the worst decisions get made. But when you're being your best self and you're looking at a situation like, well, it's sensible to have fear in this situation, but become channeled with it, then you're running off a better energy.
Yeah. Because it doesn't go anywhere.
No.
So it doesn't go anywhere, like the fear. Like, even on top of my head, like reframing it as growth, etc., like step out your comfort zone, like all this stuff's great, but fundamentally you're still going to be feeling a certain way going into it. And that's completely normal. And as you said, like if you're going to a situation, let's say a job interview, you want to be a little bit
good
anxious.
Example. Yeah.
You want to be a little bit on your toes, because if you're going in there completely laid back, cocky as, I've got this, no problem.
Dude.
You're going to be so laid back, maybe too laid back. Mate, and actually, that's not what you want. You want to have that little, like football players.
Dude, I was just going to say, I've got a really good example of this. And I've had 3 boxing fights in my life. The first one was just carnage. I was only 17 and I was fighting somebody that's 25 in the RAF. So I was just swinging punches at him, at everything I could throw. The second one, I fought the best fight I've ever fought. It was in London at Alexandra Palace, but I was really nervous. But the coach had somebody there to help me sort of channel these nerves, and the butterflies, I say, flew with me that day. I got in the fight. I was so focused on what was happening, and I could just throw every punch, but there was so much nerve, so I always had my guard up. The other one, everyone who went to see that fight were like, oh, you're going to breeze this one. This guy's never won. And I was so relaxed and nonchalant with the whole situation. I got battered. It was like blasé, turn up, just like throw some punches. And this guy had been really practicing, you could tell, in training every day. It was amazing. And I just turned up thinking, I've got this. So there's a beautiful line there and a balance, isn't there, where you need to run with that energy sometimes. Just, again, in a boxing fight, it's really heightened.
100%, but it's leaning into it.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
What it's
I love that.
Just understand that feeling. Just know that it's there, and understand that this, again, whether it's... Because, again, it can feel uncomfortable. But just be like, right, I've got to step through this, because life is not about comfort. That's the thing. I think we're under this false illusion that life's meant to be easy.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's not that. Like, life's not meant to be. We are too comfortable as a species. We don't have to worry about food. Most of us don't have to worry about shelter or warmth, water. We've got it all. We're very, very comfortable. So when there's a slight bit of discomfort, we don't know how to sit into that. We don't know how to lean into it. Which is why I like having ice baths, cold showers.
Yeah.
Because again, it gets you being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And that's a real key thing that I don't think many of us do. And that's why, again, I'm always trying to challenge myself. And again, when I'm reading, I think I've said this to you before, but I'm not sure, I've talked to a few people about it, but now when I'm reading, I will literally sit with the dictionary open and I will Google the dictionary, all the words I don't know.
Mate, love
so
it.
I can actually understand the sentence structure properly.
Yeah.
And again, that for me is really uncomfortable. I know it's a bit of a crazy analogy, but then rather than me speak comfortably reading, like, I'm really good at reading this, I'm trying to set myself out to be a little bit more uncomfortable and be like, right, well, actually, what's this word mean? Can I use it in a sentence? Do I actually really understand that? And that's not comfortable for me for someone that really struggles with English.
Yeah.
So at any opportunity, I'm like, can I just try and make myself a little bit more uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And the more you do that, when you step up to again, this invisible comfort zone you've created, the more you get used to being on that line, it doesn't affect you as much. And you start to notice, that's that feeling again. That's okay, I can deal with this. It's a bit uncomfortable, but I know how to work with this. I know how to lean into it. Whereas if you're so comfortable all the time, the slightest thing that causes discomfort, you get afraid of it.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to handle that situation. And I think you get a lot of this now with the younger generation. They're so, quote unquote, sheltered. One kid's asked me in a school, this is about 2-3 months ago, in the Q&A at the end, he said, do you think that my generation is, what was the word he used? What are they called? Ice, what are they called?
Ice.
Snowflakes.
Snowflakes.
Yes. Do you think my generation's snowflakes?
Yeah.
I said, yeah. But I said, it's not your fault. And you're not snowflakes, you just think you're snowflakes.
Yeah.
Because they've been conditioned that everything's just very easy, it's comfortable, like anything, they're very, what's the word, pandered to and wrapped in cotton wool.
Mollycoddled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as soon as a little bit of life hits them, they don't know how to deal with that. But they can deal with it, they're just not taught how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And again, we've not going on tangent about schools, but that's the thing for me. I'm looking at this, that fear. Like, we're not taught how to get comfortable in that uncomfortableness. And the more we can do it, the more we can stretch ourselves just a little bit, which is why I think cold baths, ice showers are absolutely fantastic. Cold showers, ice baths, got the wrong way around there. That's what's going on with my words today. The more we can start to do that, it then transcends over. So if you do it in one area, you can do it in other areas. Again, if you're disciplined in one area, like going to the gym, sorting nutrition out, it will then transcend into other areas of your life, like business, for example. Like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you start to be slack and lazy at one thing, it kind of transcends. Same with fear. Like, it just that being uncomfortable, like just sitting into it.
I love that. That's probably my biggest takeaway with talking about fear, because we spoke about a lot of different elements of fear, haven't we? We're looking at the fear of loss and love and going through that pain. That's one side of fear. And then there's another fear in just challenge. But everything that you're talking about is about leaning into it, being conscious, looking at it from a rational perspective, and being able to put forward your best version of yourself toward it.
If you don't do that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Do you ever just sat there constantly in fear?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about?
And trying to repress it as well.
But again, trying not to repress it. So, what we my words are not working.
Mate, put down that dictionary,
man. It's all jumbled up in here. What we resist persists.
Yeah.
So the more we try, I don't want to fear this. 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 What are you focusing on?
Yeah.
So again, if you go onto Google and type in, I don't want to see cars.
Yeah.
You're going to see cars. That's what Google does. It doesn't recognize the word not. So you're then focusing, I don't want to fear this. I don't want to fear this. You're giving your attention on that fear.
Yeah.
You're thinking about the fear.
It's
and then
like
guess
the
what?
Voldemort idea, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Don't say his name, but he just grows more powerful from that.
Yeah, because it's the energy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with it. Like, so this whole thing here, that the self-fulfilling prophecy, so understand that the more you get caught up and you don't lean into it, and you then go and become a bit of a recluse, you become more fearful. The fear grows because you've not dealt with it. It just sits there. And then you get inside your own head and you think about it. And again, we've all done this, the mountain and the molehill. This small little thing that you were a little bit afraid of, you then sit there. Let's say the petrol station, for example. So then you then don't go to the petrol station. And you sat there and you're thinking, but now you're worried about you running out of petrol. So you start to get fearful of that. And there's another petrol station. And now you just made this petrol station even bigger than the last one because you're like, but I think of that last one there. And you now create this massive story and this narrative over something that's so small. And we have this all the time where we build something up in our head. And it's massive. And it's bothered us all day. Maybe even for a week, and then you finally talk to your best mate about it, and as soon as you start talking, you can see it in your own demeanour. You're like, well, that was stupid.
And you often have all the solutions to it as well when you're talking about it. You're like, oh yeah, well, I could put that together.
You have 100%
yeah.
the solution.
Yeah.
All these problems that we face in life, and I fully believe this, the problem is we're not used to talking to ourselves. How do you solve a problem? With questions. You can solve all problems by asking questions.
Did you get that book, the question book?
Yes, down there.
I'm glad.
Yeah. It's down at the bottom, yeah.
Nice
but that's what it is. We've got these problems, and what we're doing is we're focusing on the problem. Why not actually ask questions of ourselves? Okay, so here's my problem. Right. What am I going to do about it? How can I change this? Who can help me with this? Where can I research this? Blah, 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 blah. Because again, remember that fear, that problem is ignorance.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Because you've got to think about it. Whatever problem you're facing, whatever problem it is, you're not the first person to face that problem.
No.
Whether it's lack of money, poverty, illness, lack of a job, no relationships, you're not the first person to go through that. And there's information out there that if you read it and apply it, will diminish that. It's gone. So again, let's say, for example, you're fearful of something. Maybe you're fearful of jumping out of a plane. Very, very logical.
Yeah.
Who on earth thinks, I'm just going to jump out of a plane? The first time, who genuinely thinks that? Yeah. So you've got to be alert, like, wow, this is really uncomfortable for me. However, you've never jumped out of a plane before. I've never done it. So what would be a good way for me to null down that fear and lean into it a bit? Well, I'm going to go watch videos on it. I'm going to go and watch people who've interviewed that have done it. And then they explain to me, well, this is how it feels when you're going up there. I'm like, oh, wow, this is what to expect. Yeah. You're still going to feel the fear, but you're kind of understanding, oh, this is the process. Yeah. This is what's supposed to happen. Whereas we don't tend to do that. We just focus on the problem and we do nothing. The easiest thing to do is just take the first step towards solving that problem. But it starts with asking yourself the right questions. Do I know someone that's been through this? Yeah. Do I have a friend I can lean on? All these things. Don't think we can do it ourselves, but we 100% have the answer to the questions we're searching for that problem.
And I suppose the thing, this is just through my experience, the more that I've done things that are really uncomfortable like that, and I've done a bungee.
You jumped out of a plane?
I've done a bungee before. It was the world's largest bridge bungee.
Hell no.
But,
no.
Mate, honestly, anything that I've done since then that touched the fringes of, oh, this is quite a scary situation, I just picture myself being up on that ledge, being in front of the abyss into nothingness, and just thinking, well, I'm here now, I've got to go. And that moment genuinely just pushes me onto the stage or wherever I am.
But again, interesting. As soon as I said that, I said, hell no.
Yeah.
I then thought to myself, right, well, that's something I've got to do.
Oh, mate, I like that. Yeah,
like,
attack it.
I've literally talking about all this.
Yeah.
That's clearly a fear of mine. Okay. Yeah. So at some point, I'm going to have to do that.
Mate.
As soon as I've said that, literally, in my head, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be a hypocrite.
I think we should do little tasks on this podcast every so often.
Yeah.
Like, we should have challenges. And every so often, we should come up with something. I'm not sure what my fear is yet, but you're not locking me in like a cabinet with rats all over me. I'm not doing that. But that would... No, that would probably be my big one. Because I watch... what's that show where all the celebrities go in the jungle?
Yeah.
I'm a Celebrity. Yeah. That's the task that always puts me in a panic watching it at home. But get that off.
I'm just thinking in my head now, genuinely. So as soon as you said about the bungee, and I said hell no, it's like, okay, so think about why. And you know what my fear is? Doing it, that'd be sick. Because I get travel sick. Yeah. So in my head I'm thinking, if I'm doing that, I will end up vomiting everywhere. Yeah. So again, it's not a fear of doing that. It's the fear of being sick if I'm doing it and getting travel sick, and that's my fear. It's not the actual doing it, mate. That's my fear. Because I think I could jump out of a plane. I think that
bungees it's a strange one, man. You're relying on something.
The bouncing up and down. Yeah. That motion, just the thought of it makes you feel a bit like, oh, that's again what it is. Rather than the actual stepping off the edge. Because as you said, I'd be able to logically say to myself, well, I'm here now. Let's just step. Yeah. I could do that to myself.
But you're still going against all your sort of
100%.
Gut
I'd probably
instinct.
Push me, just push me.
Yeah, mate. I think they nudged me. They nudged me. Yeah, it was a Will Smith podcast and interview I saw once, and he was talking about how he was such a fearful kid because he had quite a tough upbringing by his dad and so on, but it did push him to attacking things. So every time he felt this fear of things, he'd run into it, and he got quite addicted to that feeling. But it did inspire me to, what is that? Look at it and run toward it.
Well, I heard a podcast, I can't remember where I heard it. The guy was talking about one of his mentors basically said to him, write down the 50 things you're most afraid of and start ticking them off the list.
Really?
So rather than like a bucket list.
Yeah, that's like also a fear list. I love it.
Because it basically is like these things are controlling you. So if you can just cross them off the list, it's like, well, then what have you got left? Like, you understand
then
you're open these fears.
Just go on living.
Yeah, and so you can carry on. And I was like, that's a really interesting thing. So I thought about it, and I've not done anything with that information. But actually, it's an interesting concept to me of like, well, actually, what I'm most afraid of. So let's say it's public speaking, cool. We'll then go up and do more public speaking.
Yeah.
Let's say it's meeting new people, right? We'll then make it a habit of every day talking to 10 random strangers in the supermarket or something. But all these things that we're afraid of, if we can actually just start to lean into some, obviously just start off small, but lean into them, again, start to build that confidence.
Problem is, if your fear's lost, don't just start going and killing people.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll go into that. But yeah, like I said, I think it's an interesting thing to do. Again, to get curious with it. I think it's also, like I just did there, so straight away that fear, like I straight away went to curiosity. So why? Like as soon as I said that, why have I just responded with that? And I just sat and thought about it.
Questions, man.
Questions.
Questions.
Why have I just reacted like that? Okay, what's this? Okay, well, would I be afraid of jumping off a bridge? Probably not. Okay, so what is the fear there? The fear is actually being sick. Okay, well, why would I think I'd be sick? Oh, because I get travel sick. I've basically gone backwards to,
Mate,
that's what I'm afraid of.
There's things that it's like leaning into things, have a curious mind, start to question yourself and bring about that change. There's some real big, what have you taken away from today? Because genuinely, that lean into it is going to help me massively from this podcast.
I've always tried to do that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background this year that will manifest itself in the next couple of months. And again, there is so much fear linked behind that. And although on the surface it doesn't look like there's action being taken, behind the scenes there's loads of action being taken. And again, just leaning into it and always asking myself, well, why is it? And it normally comes back down to paradigms. It normally comes back down to my habits and my beliefs. So then it's then me questioning these beliefs. And that's the biggest thing for me, like where have these beliefs come from?
And another big word today, acceptance. You're supposed to feel this. If it is the fear of loss, I don't want to, with Ella and my partner Chrissy, not fall more in love with them as life goes on because I don't want to lose them eventually. I want the price of that is we have the most glorious, amazing times together, and eventually, one day there's going to be hurt there.
Look what Joe said. Joe on the podcast, Harley.
Yeah.
Like he knew full well that someone's going to die.
Yeah.
But rather than just...
It spurred him on to live.
And again, we said every single day being present. Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And again, with that, like the love, the genuine connection, the love and the presentness, like, wow, that's what it's all about. So again, especially when it comes to families or dogs or anything like that, like, lean into it. Be like, wow, okay, so I've really got... if I'm going to lose this someday, well, it's here right now, so let's really lean into that. I think that's... again, you're not going to get it right every day, especially if you've got kids and stuff. You're going to shout to the kids. You're not going to show up as the best version of you. But it's then consciously making that effort of, actually today, how can I show up as that best version of me right now? Because again, I spoke to my clients about this the other day, about it was attitude. And no matter how you're feeling, you've always got a choice to give 100%.
Yeah.
So even if you're feeling 60% because you're ill or whatever it is, you can still show up at 100% of that 60%.
Yeah,
that is a choice.
Yeah.
And most time
that's David's big thing about choice as well.
You always have a choice. So right now you may not be feeling 100%, but actually you have a choice. How are you going to show up for your kids? Because again, maybe one day they're not going to be there. You never know what's around the corner. Maybe you're not going to be there. Again, you never know when it's going to be your last thing. So again, I had Mothering Sunday at the weekend, and again, my grandparents were there. And actually afterwards, I then reflected and was like, how many of these opportunities am I actually going to get where all my family's in one place? Because fortunately at this moment in time, I've not lost a close family member. However, I'm very aware it's inevitable it's going to happen.
But there's something in this podcast you said that leads you to make good choices, and that means you've got to ask yourself better questions. So you've got to be an independent thinker, have that internal dialogue where you can have better questions with yourself, and then that can lead you to better choices.
Because you might, on your own bullshit.
Yeah, you might be left with, I've only got 2 choices. Like, probably not. You've got a good conversation to have with yourself, and you'll be left with 10 choices then.
But even if you've got 2 choices,
yeah,
do it or don't do it.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the cost of not doing it?
Yeah, you've got a better line to find that better choice through that.
There'll be loads more than 2.
Yeah.
Even if it's just 2 choices.
Yeah.
There'll be 1 choice. Do it or don't do it. Because even not doing anything, most people, I'm just not going to do anything. Well, that is a choice.
Yeah, that is.
You think your one choice
and you're empowering
is doing
yourself
this thing.
by making that choice.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that people don't realise that. Like, you think, I'm just not going to do anything. That is a choice. You don't realise it, but that is a choice. And then what is the actual price of that choice for your kids, for example, for your mental happiness in the future, by you not doing that thing? And that's the thing for me. I always try and do things where it's like, what would my future self say? And it's just small little things like what my future self. Like, I'm always trying to think. Like, I'm trying to make things easier for myself in the future. Now, again, don't always get it right. And again, this is one of the biggest things when I'm talking on the podcast, when I'm doing this stuff when it comes to my clients, my coaching. I don't get it right all the time. But if I look at the trajectory of my life over the last 12 months, like the decision making I've had, the awareness of my thoughts, my ability to get myself out of bad situations, my ability to actually notice what's right for me, what's not right for me, exponential. And I've noticed that day in, day out, I'm on a level now. Like I was before, kind of up, down, more up than down. But now I'm consistently, my baseline of contentment is a lot higher.
riding that wave, baby.
100%. But the wave now is like the whole sea level's raised.
Yeah.
And again, I'm almost riding the waves. And when I'm riding the waves, I kind of make that the new norm. Does that make sense? Like there's not many peaks and troughs now. It's like my baseline.
Yeah.
And this is where people can get confused with this as well, because what happens is they feel so good, and then they get themselves into a good place, that then becomes the new norm, which is great. But then what happens, because it's a new norm, they think, oh no, I've gone backwards. And I've had that realization probably in the last 2 months, where I'm like, am I going backwards? But I've looked, I'm like, no, I'm just consistent. I'm now consistently firing on a higher trajectory.
Yeah.
So that's my new norm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, have I gone backwards? And I was thinking, well, because in my head, I was thinking, I've not genuinely, I think that I literally had this conversation with myself 2 weeks ago. No, last week. Am I getting stupider?
Huh.
And you know why? Because I listened back to a video of myself, and I was coming up with some great stuff. And I was thinking, I don't know that information now. Completely logical. Completely logical.
Man, I like
but
it,
I was like, no, that's still there. I've just not had any reason to talk about that. And actually, every day I'm still reading. Every single day I'm reading. I'm learning, I'm improving, I'm growing. So I have to be better. And I was really thinking about it. And for me, the conclusion was that actually that's just my new level. Whereas before, that information was like, wow. But now it's because I talk about it so regularly, I don't really notice it. So that's my new baseline. Am I making sense with that? That's such a big thing for me.
I love it when you go off on those tangents and ideas, because...
We should just call it the Tangent Podcast.
It's great, though, because it makes you human, but I have them exact feelings. I've had it with not writing poetry for a while and not doing music when I was doing it every other week or so on. And I think, I'm just on the decline. But then when I go to write again and I spend some time with it, I'm fine. I'm really good with it.
It's like riding a bike, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, and actually what's happening is I've not done it for ages, but look at the vocabulary and look at the situations you've been in since you last wrote.
Yeah.
Actually, there's an even deeper reservoir for you to pull out of. You just probably don't have the knife just hasn't been sharpened yet.
There you go.
As soon as you sit in it, you're just sharpening that knife, and then you realise, I'm actually even better than when I started. I'm a bit rusty right now. It's not really flowing, but again, leaning into that fear of like, rather than being like, oh, I'm so bad. Okay, well, just
and then
sit
just
there and lean,
put it off and don't bother with it.
Just lean into it, because the first few things you're going to write, and it's going to be bad, it's going to be rusty, but again, lean into it, sit into it, and again, it's like riding a bike. It's going to be wobbly. You get, actually, it's starting to flow a bit more now. Where's that word come from? And again, you start to develop this. Like, this is loads better than what I've ever created before. Yeah. And again, it's just that I think, especially, this is a great point to finish on with this fear. I think a lot of the times when we've done something and been very, very good at it in the past, when we go to do it again and we're not as good at it, we kind of give up because we're afraid I'm not going to be the same. Yeah. It's not going to be the same. I'm not going to be as good. I'm not going to be this. Okay, well, again, let's use fat loss as an example. Let's say when you're in your early 20s and you listen to this and you're in great shape, and now you're in your 40s and you're not. Okay, so you're not going to start because you're afraid because, I'm not as good as I was. Well, that is horrific. Like that fear, completely logical. So you're going to put yourself at health risks, etc., just because you're afraid of not being as good at the gym, or if you're a runner, the running, the times. Again, it's you got a choice. By you not taking action, what's the consequences of that? So again, just lean into it. Okay, well, actually now I'm twice as old. Let's see what my body feels like. Get curious. Yeah. Well, what's it going to be like for me?
And just have a different baseline again.
Absolutely.
But it's allowed to be lower than that previous baseline, but try and hit that optimal state of where you're at now.
Absolutely.
And who you can be.
Mate, it's been a great conversation.
It's great, mate.
I love these little rambles we get on. We just go on these crazy rambles. Absolutely.
Mate, it is ace.
Where can people find out more information about you?
Rhythmical Mike at the Old Farm Bus.
So again, I'll get you to put that in.
Yeah.
And again, if you're not following me, don't forget to give me a follow on Instagram, Daniel_James_coaching. And again, if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave us a review. Until next time, take it easy.